Okay everyone, this is the HSC video on the Cold War. Mutually assured destruction of our grades right here. Just so you know, I am running on cigarettes, caffeine, and M&M, so wish me luck. Okay, so let's fucking get started. The origins of the Cold War, 1945, conferences. Yalta, which was held in Crimea. The superpowers met, the big three, Winston Churchill, Stalin, and Roosevelt, which met to coordinate the end of the war. Standing too close, isn't it? Germany was decidedly divided amongst the three, and Berlin in similar fashion. Poland had friendly communist governments. Stalin kept some Polish territories. The Atlantic Charter was agreed upon, and it was also agreed to establish the UN. There's the big three. Stay put, or I swear to God. Fucking can't. Anyway. Potsdam, the second conference. The big three were replaced, well, except for Stalin, because, dictator. Germany, by this time, was defeated. Hitler was dead. Harry Truman was the representative for the US. Clement Attlee was the representative for England, and Stalin for Russia. There was a little bit of jealousy about the atomic bomb that Stalin managed to, get. And people a little bit, the other two were a little bit like, oh shit, we might need some, because what if we get bombed, Truman ended the Lend-Lease Act with the famous quote. He also says, "I'm tired of babying the Soviets." That's gonna piss Stalin off, isn't it? Fucking idiot. The USSR agreed to join the war against Japan, which, the US kind of got themselves into. That's in the US video. I'll be doing that one after this. Crikey. The emerging powers. The emerging superpowers. Communism versus democracy. Fred Schwartz's 1961 poster, "A Communist is America's Mortal Enemy." Yep. Right. The Fist. The USSR had nuclear weapons, military sphere of influence, communist ideology, rivalry, shared economic model, everything was shared. Fucking hippies in it. I mean, look at me right now. This is the the look. I really tried in it. I'm on the brink. The USSR had sphere of influence over Eastern Europe, establishing commie governments in satellite states. The Warsaw Pact, which was collective defensive treaty. The US of A had global influence, money from World War II, which was why that they entered the fucking war. Don't be fooled. Military power. The Truman Doctrine. The Truman Doctrine. Harry Truman presented to Congress the US position on the Reds, the communists. His basic thing was to stop the spread, like the coronavirus. The commies were a spread of a disease, and to provide aid to European countries that were vulnerable to communist appeal. I mean, I'm starting to see a pattern here, not gonna lie. Early crises. What are words? the Berlin blockade and airlift. So by this time, Germany was divided. The USSR blocked Allies' shipments to the west part of Germany's control, and the Allies then airlifted supplies, like with, blimps and shit. The shit in the sky. I can't think right now, so just trust me. China, another early crisis. Just China. Just China becomes communist. The People's Republic of China in 1949, they became communists. This meant that because they were communists, the US were like, fuck off. So, the US of A suspended diplomatic ties, and a source that you could use is the dictator Mao's propaganda. The Korean War. MASH time. This was basically, in summary wise, a fight over the border of the 38th parallel of South and North Korea. So now I'm going to delve into this Korean War because fuck me if I have notes on it, Jesus. South Korea had UN troops, mainly US. That's the wrong side. South Korea President Syngman Rhee. North Korean President Kim Il-sung, who was a communist. Both of them didn't expect the border of the 38th parallel. 38th parallel is the border dividing the north and south part of Korea. North Korean People's Army invaded first in a general attack along the 38th parallel. Seoul, the capital, kept changing command, like there was a real push and pull. A divide. Oh my god, the light's up. Holy shit, it's day. I can see it in my window. Fuck me. Look at Patrick Bateman's eye. Fucking time flies. Okay. The US, Harry Truman, he wanted to contain communism. So that meant that, he was trying to do everything to not make sure that the dominoes fell, meaning that one country would fall to communism, then another, then another, then another, and then, soon the US would just be so powerless and defenseless. Anyway, so he got the UN to help out, South Korea, and North Korea had, for allies, the USSR, so Russia, China, blah, 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 blah. And South Korea, well, the UN really came in clutch, I'm not gonna lie. South Korea had UN troops, mainly US, because they love a good war in it. That's why they, entered the Second World War. But anyway, so they had Britain, South Africa, Philippines, Luxembourg, Greece, Thailand, Australia, New Zealand, France, Canada, US, Belgium, Luxembourg, Netherlands, Ethiopia, Colombia in the UN troops, and then people who contributed military hospitals and field ambos were Denmark, Sweden, India, Italy, and Norway. Fuck off. The UN troops were led by a real nutjob, General Douglas MacArthur, who was pretty old, and he decided, the best way to cover it up, how, old women decide to do the under eye when they start to show their wrinkles, he decided to dye his hair jet black. And he also smoked a corn cob sort of looking pipe. This isn't, important, it's just fucking weird. Anyway, so yeah, he basically, Harry Truman's plan was to contain communism, he just wanted to contain it, just don't spread, okay? It's a disease, don't fucking spread. But General Douglas MacArthur had other ideas, and he kind of just wanted to go beyond the OG plan of containment, and wanted to utterly smash the communists. So he was later fired for insubordination, but he did lead it for quite a while. There was a push and pull of territories, which soon resulted in a stalemate along the 30th parallel until the new president, Dwight Eisenhower, sought to end the war through negotiations of a 2-year armistice signed and a demilitarized zone which still stands today. So that's about all of it about the Korean War. Oh yeah, development of the Cold War. The USSR and the US funding opposite sides of wars and conflicts. Most of them that they started themselves. In fact, I'm pretty sure all of them. I could be wrong, probably am. Sides of various conflicts and wars. Policy of containment, which we've been over. The domino theory, Dwight Eisenhower famously said, you have a row of dominoes set up, you knock over the first one, and what will happen to the last one is the certainty that it will go over very quickly. 1956, Dwight Eisenhower. Different political systems and ideologies coexisting, a toxic relationship. Yeah, no, so basically, the way that you can think about the Cold War is that it's a toxic relationship. Like, they're going off trying to find some new exciting things to do with like other countries, blowing them up, shit like that. But nothing will ever really compare to the rivalry that you first had between the USSR and the US of A. Sweet love. And yeah, there was like a lot of push and pull and they just kept fighting, but really, in the end, they realized that they really needed each other. Anyway, then there was the arms race. The nuclear arms race was the most dangerous part of the Cold War. Oppenheimer, actually, where is he? Right there. Oppenheimer. Both were overproducing nuclear weapons, and created a mutually assured destruction. The first nuke test was in New Mexico, 1945, right there. Then we have the space race. Could you fucking stay still, please? Jesus Christ. I just watched Terrified to keep myself awake from studying, and I'm very close to going into full fucking art mode. Not gonna lie. Anyway, the space race. These challenges, like basically, the USSR and the US of A would like compete with each other, to get like the best space tech and like the newest, advancement. And because they were like rushing it, it was quite unsafe, leading to some weird and unsafe space exploration. They spent money on it rather than, war or their own countries, for the fight to be the first man in space. And they then later, once completed that, decided to try and further outdo each other with more crazy shit. Here are some space things, for examples. So there's the Challenger 7, which was basically a US thing in maybe the 70s, yeah. And basically they had like ordinary people to command a spaceship and then go up. But, it only went up for about 25 seconds before it went. Do you know why? Because there was a teacher on board. Anyway, and then another weird thing is that Russia decided to send a little dog into space called Laika. She is in the Sputnik 2 capsule, 1954. And there are the Voyager records, 1977, that they sent into space because they were waiting for the aliens to come get them. Another little crisis thing was in America's own borders, and it was basically just like, the fear of communism. The McCarthy trials, basically this dickhead, Senator McCarthy, kept prosecuting people and accusing them of being communists, even though they probably weren't. Or maybe they were, but it wasn't really any of his business, really, was it? You fuckwit. Yeah, and so a lot of people were more scared of, being accused of being a communist than they were of actually, actual communism, which is kind of like the witch trials. Makes you think, doesn't it, Arthur Miller? um, Arms race. Later crises, another one. The Berlin Wall. Here we go. So Germany was divided. There were strict rules and punishment. A Berlin Wall was created. It eventually came down after mass protest in 1989. That was a picture of a German soldier, an East German soldier, helping a little boy cross the border because, the West was where you wanted to be, really, and the East was pretty harsh, and they didn't have any fucking supplies, and it was pretty sad and shit. Meanwhile, the West had fucking, great shit like cigarettes and American burgers or some shit. But, there was a lot more freedom. It was much better. So basically, there's this museum in Berlin called Checkpoint Charlie. Checkpoint Charlie was a point on the Berlin border where, people would cross the border with permission, of course. No fucking getting past them. And a lot of people found some pretty ingenious ways to get across the border. There were tunnels. This one guy had a wire strung across and made like this weird little flying machine and would just speed across it. Another one was Heinz Minzer, who loved his girlfriend and got his loved one out by choosing a small sports car and then modifying it so it would fit under the barrier of the border, therefore that they could cross much easier. Another story, I don't know the specific name of it, but basically this guy sewed in his, because you could travel, if you had permission, you could travel from the east to the west for work, and basically this guy had work in, like they would like tell you, like, you got to come back because otherwise we'll kill your loved ones. So basically he snuck his girlfriend in the car, but not like under a blanket or anything like in The Zookeeper's Wife, but no, like he literally sewed her into the car seat and then went across the border, which was pretty fucking cool. Another lady folded herself into a loudspeaker of a visiting Dutch singer. Yeah. And there's graffiti on the wall that says, "Forget not the tyranny of this wall, nor the love of freedom that made it fall." Yep. Let's go Vietnam War. I have very little on the following information, not gonna lie to myself and not gonna lie to you. The US supported the South, the USSR supported the North, as per fucking usual. Nothing changes. They wanted to prevent the spread of communism, the US of A, in the region. There's a photo of the Napalm Girl. I don't know if YouTube's gonna let me show that, but it's like the famous one where she's like crying in the street and she's like that because she, like, her clothes got burnt off in the gas. So that was fucking lovely, wasn't it? The photo was taken in 1972. There's a famous Banksy one where she's in there and then Mickey Mouse and the Ronald McDonald are like holding her hands. It's comment on like American consumerism or some shit. Then we have the Czech Slovakia situation going on. 1968, the Prague Spring of 1968 was a time of political liberation. The USSR led Warsaw Part troops in invasion to crack down on reformist trends in Prague. There's this photo of a Czech protester standing in front of a Russian tank. Oh, fuck me. That one right there. Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, USSR. In 1962, the USSR secretly installed missiles in Cuba to attack US cities. Federo Castel, US supplied and trained Cubans against communists, giving them, guns and basically giving stuff to anti-commie Cuban groups. There was a 13-day standoff with tanks in Berlin, and basically, it's really getting to me, innit? Basically, Kennedy, who was the president of the United States, and then Khrushchev, who was the leader of the USSR at that time in 1961. Basically, Kennedy called Khrushchev up, and their tanks were there, and then he's like, I'll back away 1 inch, and you back away the other, and then they slowly backed away. Like my mic. I don't even know if this is fucking working. There's another protest that happened with a thing called Hands Off Cuba. Yep. Alright. Another crisis was the Sino-Soviet split, which saw a breakdown in communication and relationship between two of the biggest communist powers, the USSR and the People's Republic of China. This resulted in a war over a territory dispute. I mean, fucking just draw a line and, stay on your side. I don't know what the big deal is. Anyway, this was exploited by the US. Is there really any fucking surprise about that? Nixon, who I'm sure you'll know from the TV Girl song, I'm not a crook. That's him. Nixon visited China in 1972 to normalize the relationship between the USA and the US of A and China. And this kind of pressured the USSR to kind of mellow out, make peace, ease tensions. Don't you love that? Then we have the Middle East. Peace in the Middle East. The Middle East was a battleground for the US and USSR influence, driven by strategic influences such as oil and location. So basically, the US and the USA, the USA and the USSR, the Soviets, the USSR, both fought there because they both wanted oil and the location of the Middle East. Countries involved were Egypt, Iran, and Afghanistan. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, the USSR sought to prop up the country's communist government in its battle with anti-communist Muslims. Thousands of troops assumed military and political power in Kabul, which is the capital. Already done that one. Iran, the USSR eradicated British influence over Tehran. I think that's, the capital. Severed British ties to Middle Eastern oil. Then we have Detente. Finally, we're getting somewhere. This is okay. Detente, definition, the easing of hostility and strained relationships between regions, groups, and countries. So basically, this is the time after, it's like a period after you've broken up with your ex, and then you go hey, let's have coffee, and then you meet, and then you kind of just go yeah, you did this, you did that, but I don't know, I'll be civil if you will. That's what detente is. But you just know that they're gonna break your heart again, won't they? So basically detente saw that superpowers reduce spending. I mean, that was a big one because I imagine that their budget would be pretty blown after the Cold War. Stop spending money on the arms race and the space race, and instead could focus on their own country's problems and their inner self problems as well, which I'm sure that they fucking needed. Reagan and Gorbachev. This is the new era where Reagan is the president and Gorbachev is the leader of the USSR. And basically, Reagan is anti-communist, and he calls it an evil empire. He rejects detente. What did I just say? What did I just say? They're gonna break your heart every time. He offered training and weapons to anti-communist opposition, and he did MAGA. Yeah, before Trump, he did MAGA, and he's like, "Make America great again. We will be independent. We will have global control." But then Gorbachev was just kind of like, hippy dipping it out. He was just kind of like, he was withdrawing from global affairs. He was trying to reform the communist regime to have like a better lifestyle and more freedoms. But I don't know, they were just kind of fighting and shit until the end of the Cold War. The end of the Cold War, the disarmament agreement of 1978 to 1991. This was seen as which treaties in which the two powers agreed to limit the creation of new warheads and weapons of mass destruction. Then we have another reason, the collapse of communism. Revolutions fell, fall of communism in the Eastern Bloc. The Berlin Wall fell down after mass protest in 1989. Oh shit, we're done. Yeah, so that's the Cold War, baby. And we might have another one soon. I hope you like my outfit, because I did spend a lot of time on it, didn't I? I can't do eyeliner, but anyway, bye-bye.